Hey guys, OG3 here, and for this video, I want to see if it is possible to beat Pokemon Firered / Leafgreen with only a Feebas. So let's get this video started with going over the rules of this playthrough. For this playthrough, I will only be using a Feebas, except for two exceptions. First, I will have to glitch the Feebas in, and I couldn't find out how to do so by making it my starter, so I used a Pokemon Encounter modifier glitch to do so. Next, I will need to get the Feebas to level 15 to learn its first move that isn't Splash. Next, I will not be using any items in battle. I understand it takes the skill of the Elite Four to spam full restores, but I find it kinda cheap, so I will not use items in battle during this playthrough. But, hold items are okay. Next, my Feebas cannot evolve for the entire playthrough. It has to say a Feebas for the entire time. I think this rule is kind of understood, otherwise this video would become a Milotic challenge instead. And lastly, I cannot receive help from other Pokemon in my party unless they need to cut a tree or move a boulder. For the most part, if I have Pokemon in my party, I will try to make sure that they are fainted for battles or they will be my PC. And finally, we have established all the rules for this playthrough, so with that out of the way, let's start this challenge. First, we start off at our mom's house where we are about to embark on our journey. Ideally, we would hack in a Phoebus as our starter, but since I wasn't able to do that, we'll have to pick one of the three starters. But to manipulate what my rival's Pokemon team will look like later on, I will pick a Charmander. We will get more into my rival's Pokemon team later, but for now, we'll have to wait to get Pokeballs to get our Phoebus. Finally, we have got our Pokeballs and I am now ready to catch the Phoebus with the right nature. After what seemed like an eternity of catching and releasing fishes with skin cancer, our funds almost completely went dry from buying Pokeballs. But at last, we have found the Phoebus with the right nature. We wanted the modest nature for our Feebas. It has plus special attack and minus attack. This will be beneficial in the late game when we have TMs, but in the early game, it will be a nightmare before we get our first usable TM. After deciding to skip the optional rival battle, I wanted to learn from the mandatory master to become the very best there ever was. But of course, only if it means as a Feebas trainer. By watching the old man, I feel like I can truly complete this challenge. I decided to get an escort to go to the gym after getting my Feebas to level 15, to learn tackle instead of relying on struggle for everything. I don't think I'll be able to take down the gym at level 15 considering all my Feebas knows are tackle and splash, and I'm going up against a rock gym. But it is good to know where I stand for right now. And with that, I am off to challenge the gym as my first milestone of this playthrough. The only trainer in Brock's gym has a Diglett and a Sandshrew. The Diglett didn't cause any problems, and the Sandshrew only did defense curl. It proved to be an easy victory for my young Feebas. Next, we have Brock. He has a Geodude and an Onix. His Geodude is the issue right now. We already barely do any damage to it, and the AI likes to spam defense curl, making it even harder on us. Plus, when he actually does attack, he takes a big enough chunk out of us that is concerning. Obviously, this battle looks pretty bleak for us right now. Unfortunately, that means we'll have to seriously level up our Feebas. It seems this will be a very common theme throughout this video. After hours of training and battling to get to a ridiculous level, I was finally able to beat the Geodude. But I decided to deplete all my PP and all my moves to struggle against every Pokemon. This strategy worked wonders. Luckily, this is Gen 3, which means that struggle is not affected by type, so it does neutral damage, and when struggle hits, recoil damage is equal to only 1/4 of the damage it dealt. Also, because this is Gen 3, Onix Bind Attack isn't all powerful anymore, where it would restrict me from attacking or anything. Even with the crits everywhere, I am still not able to take him down and I die in the most frustrating way possible. Because the last battle with Onix was so close, I decided to try again. Even though I have lost so many times that I can't even buy an antidote anymore, I am still hopeful. To win this battle, I learned that Onix needs to miss Rock Tomb a couple of times, or I need to get a couple lucky crits. Also, Rock Tomb has an accuracy of 80% in this gen, so it is possible. We just need to keep replaying until we get just the right outcome. And with that, we are able to get lucky crits and secure our victory of our first milestone, as well as an annoying gym. Now that I'm out of the cave, I can fight Misty to get our first usable TM, as well as our second gym badge. Misty will be a tricky opponent, but not as much as Brock. She has a Staryu and a Starmie. The Staryu isn't that big of an issue, but the Starmie is. We will be able to take down the Staryu, but it will probably do some decent damage. The Starmie might prove to be difficult for right now. It is powerful and has a pretty good moveset with Swift, Water Pulse, and Recover, and it is not above spamming Recover when it gets a little low. Also, we only have Flail and Tackle as our hitting moves for right now, and as such, it doesn't matter that we're over 10 levels higher than it. So with this loss, we decide to attempt this battle later on. Next, we have the rival battle. This battle proved to be difficult. He has a Pidgeotto, Rattata, Squirtle, and Abra. The biggest issue is the Pidgeotto. It is strong and has the priority move Quick Attack that it uses pretty often. This battle is pretty straightforward with strategies, just need to take them down with power and avoid getting hit by Rattata's Hyper Fang. And we should be okay. Abra is the last Pokemon and has no attacking moves whatsoever, so once we get to him, this battle is ours. Now to do some IV training to get our special attack as high as possible. Now it is time to take on Misty again. I have gained a few levels from battling the trainers north of Cerulean City, and now feel like I can take on Misty. First up is the Staryu, but this time the Staryu feels like spamming Recovery to annoy me a bit. Unfortunately for the Staryu, all it took was a lucky crit tackle to take it down. Next up is the Starmie. For this battle, Flail will be crucial, since it will be the powerhouse move when my HP gets low, from all the Swifts. As my HP gets lower, so does his, and I'm finally able to take him down with a couple low HP Flails to secure my victory. After defeating Misty, I am able to secure my second gym badge, and have now received my first usable TM, Water Pulse, which will drastically increase the strength of my yet young Feebas. After getting the ticket from Bill and wrecking everyone in the ship, I come across my rival for the fourth time. All of his Pokemon have gained a few levels from the last time we fought, but the biggest change is that they are now in their second evolved forms. But I have also gained a few levels, and I have learned a new move since our last encounter. This fight will be easy now that I have my stab special attack move, Water Pulse. Since Wartortle is resistant to Water Pulse, he is the most annoying of all my rival's Pokemon. Eventually, he fell also to the almighty Feebas, proving who was the stronger of the two of us. Next, we collect a few useful items, such as a citrus berry for gym battles, and a rare candy to help us with overleveling in this playthrough. Next is the third gym, the electric type Lieutenant Surge. He has three Pokemon, a Voltorb, a Pikachu, and a Raichu. Voltorb is a speedy Pokemon, but given our speed, it shouldn't be an issue, so we should be able to dispatch him easy enough. Next is Pikachu. He is all speed and has low special defense. We should be able to take him out easy enough with Water Pulse. Then, we level up with ridiculous speed increase. Now, up against Lieutenant Surge's strongest Pokemon, the Raichu, it will try to paralyze me, but that shouldn't be that big of an issue unless it spams Double Team and I can't move. It seems to be going his way as he paralyzes me and does Double Team right after, but after his next attack, I get a lucky crit Water Pulse that finishes him off, and with that, I get my third gym badge. Now we arrive at Celadon City. There is the gym leader and the Team Rocket leader, Giovanni. Also, we can get two items here that can bolster our power, Ice Beam and Leftovers, but more into that later. Now we face the fourth gym leader, the grass type Erika, and right off the bat we face the Victory Bell, her strongest Pokemon. I want to see how a full power flail would work, and since it wasn't able to do the job, I decided to leave this battle for later. After invading Team Rocket's hideout in the game corner, I come across the leader Giovanni. Giovanni has an Onix, a Rhydon, and a Kangaskhan, two weak against water and one that is neutral to it. First, the Onix gives us no problem as we're able to destroy it with Water Pulse. Next up is the Rhydon. It is similar to the Onix, and it suffers the same fate as the Onix, getting one-shotted by my Water Pulse. Lastly, he has a Kangaskhan, the hardest to beat of Giovanni's Pokemon, but Kangaskhan shouldn't give us too much trouble either. It has pretty high attack, but very low special attack, so Bite will barely do any damage, while its other moves will deal some damage. But overall, it has a pretty bad moveset, with mainly weak moves that I can tank, and I also outlevel him by a large margin. I am able to take him out in the end to secure my victory. Next up, we have the Karate Dojo leader, and even though this man only has two Pokemon, and I severely outlevel him, he gave me a lot of trouble. His fighting Pokemon all have very high attack, while my Feebas has very low defense. Both Pokemon have high attack and special defense, so I decided to go with the Flail strat. After getting just the right scenario, I was able to beat both Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan with the same strategy. Now for the fourth rival battle in Lavender Town. I have left this one for a while. After all the recent battles, this one should be a breeze for my high-level Feebas. First up is the Pidgeotto. As long as I don't get hit by too many sand attacks, I'll be fine. Next up is his new Pokemon, the Electrocute, and it is annoying right off the bat with its sleeping powder. The rest of this fight is trying to wake up so I can take him down in a couple of hits. Next up is Kadabra. I was able to take him down with a single water pulse. Afterwards, the same result awaits the next Pokemon, Growlithe. Lastly is a Wurt Turtle. It is annoying to take down, it barely does any damage to me, but I begin to wear it down with Tackle and Water Pulse, eventually beating it with a crit Water Pulse. Now we face our rival again in Silphco. This time though, they have seriously leveled up, and 3 of his Pokemon are in their final form. First up is Pidgeot. He has a habit of spamming Wing Attack while I spam Water Pulse. He gets a lucky crit Wing Attack, but I am still able to take him down. Next up is his Electrocute, and unfortunately it keeps getting me with his status effect moves, making this battle even more annoying with my remaining HP. Now Alakazam. Nothing really to do but to hit him with Flail as he uses Future Sight to attack later. Now Growlithe. Growlithe is a bit of a joke. Hit him with Water Pulse and he's done. Lastly, we have Blastoise, and with my remaining HP and paralyzed, I guess I'm not expecting much here. Before battling again, I finally have enough money to buy enough coins to get the Ice Beam TM from the game corner. This is one of the things we needed to do in the city. With this TM, we become much stronger against flying grass and dragon types, as well as adding some versatility to our Feebas. Ice Beam has only a 30% chance to freeze an opponent. That could become very handy against a tough one. I try to take on my rival again, this time with Ice Beam. Blastoise has high defense and is resistant to all my special attack moves, so I decide to go for Ice Beam and pray it freezes him. Even though this strategy is entirely RNG based, 30% is still pretty high for the amount of Ice Beams I do during this battle. Even then, I get extremely lucky and was able to freeze him twice to secure my victory on my first try. Now after fighting our rival as prep, we face Giovanni. Despite most of his Pokemon being ground types, he gave me a lot of trouble here. First off, he has Nidorino. It will try to poison us, so we need to avoid that. Nidorino is a normal type, so Water Pulse does not deal enough damage. But 3 attacks later, and the battle is ours. Next is Nidoqueen, as well as the reason I lost so many times. She will use Body Slam like nobody's business, and it has a 30% chance of paralyzing, but feels like 70%. Feebas has low defense, so it does some damage, and Nidoqueen has high special defense, so it does take 3 Water Pulses to take it down. Next is Kangaskong. It can be a pain to deal with, so our strategy here is to freeze it. It has high defense and special defense, so once we freeze it, we will be able to damage it without too much worry. Luckily, it has a terrible moveset from the last time we fought, and so we're able to beat it rather quickly once it is frozen. Feebas has god-awful stats at this level, but luckily the damage calculation formula takes level into account. Lastly, we have a Rhydon, and just like last time, we beat it with one shot of our Water Pulse. Now to face the Psychic Gym Leader, Sabrina. She puts out a Kadabra, and I forgot to make my Charmander faint, but it doesn't matter since it goes down right away. Feebas takes the main stage, and since I out-level them drastically, I can just spam my special attack moves for a victory. Next up is Mr. Mime, and there isn't too much to worry about the clown, since it's all special attack and Feebas has special defense. Its moves will barely do any damage, but that just won't stop it from using potions to heal. This clown just doesn't know when to give up. Lucky for us, it finally goes down after consuming its second Hyper Potion. Now, Venomoth. And even though having a Venomoth in this gym doesn't make any sense, we should still be able to beat it. Venomoth can be tricky if it confuses you, but otherwise it should be a straightforward battle. After a few hits, I barely have any HP left after taking it down. And last up is an Alakazam. It has low defense, and I have low HP. This is the perfect scenario to use Flail as a Hail Mary to win this battle. I get a lucky crit to win the battle. Now it's Erika's turn. Unfortunately, I put out Charmander again, but it doesn't matter. Victory Bell was the reason I needed Ice Beam. Otherwise this was too difficult. Now Tangela, and it was also able to be one-shotted by an Ice Beam. Next is a status affecting Vileplume, and by my Ice Beam is more than enough to take it down and winning the gym. Now it's time to do something a bit weird for this playthrough. Underneath the Snorlax is the held item Leftovers, which if held gradually restores your HP every turn in battle. Since we can't use items, this held one is an absolute godsend, but to get it, we need to use the item finder on the exact spot the Snorlax is on. Also, to get the item finder, we need to catch 30 different Pokemon, then talk to Oak's aide, so that's exactly what we do. Next up is Koga, the Poison Ninja Man. First up is his coughing. I severely outlevel him, but he's mastered the art of using potions in battle. Unfortunately for him, I'm able to take him down pretty easily. Next up is Muck. Muck's whole gimmick here is that he tries to dodge attacks by using Minimize relentlessly. As you can tell, this makes him an extremely annoying Pokemon to battle against. Although I don't miss too many attacks, after a long time though, I am finally able to beat him. Next up is his second coughing, and it's not too different from the first. And just like the first one, it falls pretty easily. Lastly, we have a two-headed coughing. Oh wait, a wheezing. After hitting me with his sludge attack, he was finally able to poison me, but much like his one-headed colleague, he falls to my water pulse. And I get the TM Toxic as a prize, as well as my new gym badge. Now we got Double Team and Surf to teach the Feebas later. Now Blaine, the fire gym leader, and also the easiest for us. Since his entire team is weak to water types, and I just got Surf, I can patch his entire team one hit after another, except for Arcanine. He was the strongest, where it took 2 hits to knock him out. Giovanni, the impeccable leader of Team Rocket, is also the 8th gym leader. He uses the ground type, as we already know, so we have the advantage here. And for some reason, he seems not to use his Kangaskhan even though he only has 5 Pokemon. Anyway, the strategy was just use Surf, and I am able to take out all of his Pokemon in one hit. Now it's Gary's turn to get whooped. Gary's first Pokemon is Pidgeot. It is weak to ice, and it just spams wing attack, so it's an easy fight for us. Next up is Electrocute. It has still not evolved yet, and because of that, I'm able to destroy it with a single Ice Beam. Growlithe is weak and goes down just as easily. Rhyhorn also has yet to evolve, and falls just as easily to Surf. Next is Alakazam. It tries to use Disable, but misses, ensuring its loss. Lastly, Gary has his Blastoise, the most annoying of all his Pokemon. Since it has extremely high defense and special defense, as well as matching my own type, I barely do any damage to it. I would rather not deal with it, so my plan is to freeze it and then hammer it away, putting it down in the most frustrating and annoying way possible, as it annoys me to no end. That way, I don't really have to deal with it, as it barely does any damage to me, and I barely do any damage to it, taking a long fight. Now done with that cave, and on to the next stage of this challenge, the Elite Four. Lorelei normally wouldn't give us much trouble if we had an electric type, but we don't. She has 5 Pokemon, and her first one is Dewgong. It knows Ice Beam, Surf, Safeguard, and Hail. It will use Hail, effectively neutralizing our leftovers, and it will spam Safeguard even though that does not matter to us. Its other moves barely do any damage to us, which is good. Since this is the Elite Four, we need to keep our HP high at all times, and avoid status effect moves since we can't use items in battle. After a while, we eventually overwhelm her Dewgong, taking it out and getting to the next battle. Now Cloyster. It is Lorelei's most defensive Pokemon. It knows Hail, Spikes, Dive, and Protect. It will spam Protect a lot, wasting our moves, and it will use Hail. Spikes is absolutely useless against us, so that's fine. Cloyster is interesting because its defense is so high that we do more damage to it using Surf, a non-effective move, than if we used Return, a normal type move. Knowing that, we just spam Surf. Next up is Slowbro. It knows Ice Beam, Yawn, Surf, and Amnesia. It also has high defense, but not quite as high. Yawn could be disastrous to us, and same with Ice Beam if it freezes us. Amnesia will raise its special defense by 2 stages, but that doesn't matter to us. We will just use Return for this battle since it is our strongest normal move with a little over 100 power. Eventually, we are able to take it down. Jinx is weak comparatively and goes down to a lucky crit return. Last is the Lapras, her strongest Pokemon by far, as well as the reason I spent over 3 hours trying to beat her. It will spam Body Slam and it has a 30% chance of paralyzing. It also holds a Citrus Berry, which is the developers put in as a sick joke. You can't imagine the amount of times I thought I was going to win forgetting that it still had a Citrus Berry left. After dying for at least 2 hours against it, I decided to go with a different strategy. Now I decided to teach my Feebas the Toxic I got from Koga to chip away at its HP little by little. What better way to get rid of a sick joke than to give it cancer? This proved to be an effective method and will no doubt help in the future. Bruno is the second member of the Elite Four. He uses the Fighting and Ground type. His ground types are no problem for my Feebas, but his fighting types will be. Feebas does not have good defense, so the fighting types will deal a lot of damage. Even if we somehow get past his Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, his last Hitmonchan will always use Cross Chop. This is strong enough to destroy us. After losing a couple times, it becomes apparent to me that we have to come up with a different strategy against Bruno. I decided to teach my Feebas Double Team to be able to dodge moves. Now, this will be very effective since Feebas will always stay in no matter what. Hopefully now we will be able to dodge most of the fighting moves used. Trying again with a new move set. First off, we will use Double Team 6 times to get our evasiveness as high as possible. Then we can start battling. Then we go back to where we were. Unbelievably unlucky for me that he lands a Mega Kick. Strangely enough, Hitmonlee actually has decent special defense, but his defense is awful. But I don't really have any physical moves, so just serve for me. Next, the Machamp. Even though I can avoid him, I still feel uneasy since a single cross chop can one-shot me. So I use Ice Beam on it, hoping to freeze it, so I don't have to rely on Double Team so much. Also, did you know that the developers gave him a citrus berry too? I hate the idea of giving the strongest Pokemon a berry to mess with the player. Eventually, it goes down too. Next is an Onix that is at a higher level than the first, but don't let that convince you that it isn't just as pathetic as the first one. Now for the third member of the Elite Four, Agatha, the Ghost and Poison member. Agatha's strategy is to annoy us rather than to go all out with raw power. Her first Pokemon is a Gengar. Honestly, this one is probably the stronger of the two Gengars. It knows Double Team, Shadow Punch, Confuse Ray, and Toxic. All these moves are problematic, particularly Toxic. If we get hit with that this early into the fight, it is a death sentence. Confuse Ray and Double Team will prolong this fight as well. Also, Shadow Punch is a move that never misses no matter what, so this Pokemon is very annoying. Eventually, we are able to beat it though. Next is Golbat. This is where I start to use my Double Teams to maximize my evasiveness for the next couple of Pokemon. He knows the moves Confuse Ray, Bite, Air Cutter, and Poison Fang. He will try to hit us with Confuse Ray, but since we use Double Team, there is no way he will hit us. But Air Cutter is a different situation. Our HP starts to get a little low though, from the unlucky hits from Golbat's Air Cutter. After we maximize our evasiveness, we're easily able to dispatch Golbat with 2 Ice Beams. Next is Arbok. It has high attack and a decent moveset. It gets a crit Sludge Bomb to take me down. We could try again. This time we have more HP by the time we get to the Arbok. It seems that the Double Teams work their magic, as the Arbok is completely unable to touch me. After several surfs, he goes down. Next up is the higher leveled Gengar, but it is less of a threat to us because of its moveset. It has Shadow Ball, Hypnosis, Nightmare, and Sludge Bomb. All moves that have a chance of missing. It seems that now this Pokemon is the one with the Citrus Berry, but does not help too much. Last one left is the Haunter. It is absolutely no threat. It misses Hypnosis, meaning it went down after 2 hits. Now, the last member of the Elite Four, Lance, trainer of the almighty Dragon type. First up is this Gyarados. It knows the moves Dragon Rage, Hyper Beam, Twister, and Bite. It won't be able to do too much damage to me, so I take this time to spam my Double Team and use Toxic on him. After all that is done, then I start taking my time in bringing it down. Now comes out the first of Lance's Dragonairs. I know that it is a Dragon type and is weak to Ice, so I use Ice Beam twice, but before I take it out, it uses Thunder Wave on me, to paralyze me before it goes down. Now angry at the death of his brother, the second Dragonair comes out ready to fight. It is the exact same, except that instead of Thunder Wave, it knows Dragon Rage. Eventually, it also goes down to an Ice Beam. Now our strongest Pokemon, the Dragonite, comes out. It knows Outrage, Wing Attack, Hyper Beam, and Safeguard. Since it is a Dragon Flying type, it is 4 times weak to Ice, so I use Ice Beam, but before that, he uses Hyper Beam to take me out. Back at it again, this time I am not paralyzed. I go for a quick Ice Beam, taking the majority of its HP out, while it uses Safeguard, ensuring that I will take it out next turn. Last one left is Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is incredibly fast, but I am still faster. I go for a quick Surf, taking out the majority of its HP, and it misses with a Scary Face, so I'm able to beat Lance without too much of an issue. Gary, my rival, has become the Pokemon champion, and as such, it is only right that we whoop his sorry behind. Unfortunately, he is bulked up since the last time we fought him. First up is Pidgeot. Normally we use a status effect move, but this time it went for Aerial Ace. It does not matter though, as I am able to take it out next turn with my Ice Beam. Now Gary finally has gotten his Executor. It is a grass psychic type, so Ice Beam should be super effective. But first, I want to try to get my evasiveness up. It will always try to put us asleep with Sleep Powder. It knows Light Screen, Sleep Powder, Giga Drain, and Egg Bomb. His combination of moves is troublesome as he can put us to sleep, decrease the damage we do with our special attack moves, and he even has moves that are super effective against us. Unfortunately, we go down to a Giga Drain. Fighting him again, but he quickly tries to put us to sleep. Battling against Executor was one of the outcomes of picking Charmander as my starter. In doing so, I battle him instead of either battling Venusaur as my rival starter, which probably would have been a tougher match. Next up is Alakazam, the man who got his second spoon. I used Toxic against him without realizing that he has a Synchronize ability, so I became poisoned as well, essentially meaning I lost this round as well. But I am able to go down fighting as we see my attacks deal some significant damage to Alakazam. He has a solid moveset, but his problem is that he can't seem to hit me since my evasiveness is all the way up. Eventually, I am able to take him down. Next up is the finally standing up Rhydon, but it is just as useless as its laying down pre-evolved form, going down after one surf. Now comes Arcanine. He is a strong Pokemon. Being able to take more than one surf is admirable when facing down my Feebas. But the surf was able to take it out, as well as bring me to Gary's last Pokemon. Gary's last Pokemon, his Blastoise, is the most annoying of all his Pokemons. I definitely don't have much hope for this battle. All of my attacks barely do any damage, and it's the same for him too. He was actually able to hit me with his Skull Bash, knocking me out. This time, I poisoned him, and I made sure to max out my evasiveness. This way, I barely have to do anything. All I have to do is wait for the poison to slowly take him out. Eventually, the poison does take him out, but it wasn't a necessarily long battle. We beat Gary, proving to everyone that I am better than all the other trainers, and that Feebas is not such a garbage Pokemon. And with Feebas only in tow, we have successfully beat Pokemon Firered, proving that it is possible. It is OG3 Adventures, and thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do. Peace!